Hello everyone. Now you will hear a brief retelling of the movie The Wandering Earth 2. Enjoy the movie. Droughts and wildfires will start to spread globally in the near future. Scientists soon herald an impending catastrophe known as the solar crisis, which states that if the sun continues to expand at its current rate, Earth would be swallowed by it in 100 years and the solar system will cease to exist in 300 years. The Moving Mountain Project, which entails constructing massive engines capable of propelling Earth outside of the solar system, is approved to move forward by the United Earth Government, or UEG. People who don't care about disasters that haven't happened yet go to the streets in protests and rioting throughout the world due to the enormous expense of the operation, which is depleting resources quickly. When the UEG forbids the Digital Life Project, or DLP, a radical organization that thinks computers hold the key to humanity's future, violent demonstrations escalate. They are working on a technology that would enable individuals to upload their thoughts into a disk, but they don't have the funding to finish it, so they are continuously attacking the UEG with terrorist attacks and hacks. The UEG observes that people are losing trust in their initiative when the DLP makes yet another failed attempt, and they think about abandoning it. Nonetheless, Zhou, the Chinese ambassador, persuades everyone to proceed with the project's initial phase, which will be completed shortly and boost morale. In order to push it further and enable Earth to escape its gravitational pull, the initial objective is to test the engine on the moon. Lu, a pilot, is among the many individuals undergoing astronaut training for this mission. When Lu arrived at the base, protesters encircled it. Even though the guards are doing their best to disperse the irate crowd, one protester is able to slip inside. Fortunately, trainee Han takes the man out with ease, leaving Lu so impressed that he envisions a future with her. The new recruits are given a tour of the facility and sent to the space elevator for their first test as the guards employ force to remove the demonstrators. The cadets get a taste of space travel with this elevator, the tallest building in human history. Many of them faint from the rapid ascent, missing the opportunity to visit the station that is being constructed there for the project. After that, every cadet is kept occupied with training in a variety of areas, including hand-to-hand fighting, handling weaponry, and frequent elevator rides until they are no longer fainting. To ensure they're in optimal physical shape, they also undergo physical examinations and medical testing. Lu and Han fall in love as they get to know one another during their training together. One day, Lu uses cigarettes as a kind of payment to the guards, enabling him to obtain a flower inside the facility, which he then gives to Han the next time they ride the elevator. A fresh group of reserve astronauts show up that morning and board the elevator together. The engineers find out the system has been hacked when all of the drones outside start flying out of the hangar. Lu and Han note that the new astronauts are changing into uniforms with the cadets' names when the elevator starts to ascend ahead of time. When the drones outside start firing, everyone within the bunker has to focus on using their own technology to protect the base. The drones are identified as allies by the system, so even when the pilots attempt to use the planes to shoot, they are not targeted. Using missiles, the drones take advantage of this and destroy one of the elevators. The newcomers start locking the doors and the seats in the elevator before robbing the cadets of their IDs and beating up anyone who dares to fight. Lu gets up from his chair in the other room and uses his glasses to burn the lock screen so that the door opens. Lu pursues the terrorists and fights them until one of them slips off the edge and dies after tending to a bleeding companion. Lu uses a fire extinguisher to go after the other person, but it's too late since the terrorist uses the ID that was taken to provide the elevator entry to the station just as the drones are launching a missile at them. In the meanwhile, the base's scientists introduce the 550C, a sophisticated quantum computer that ultimately defeats hacking. As the elevators are brought back down, the drones start to crash into the ground and explode everywhere, sending shockwaves over the whole area due to the zero-G. While Lu continues to battle the terrorist, Han uses a mechanical arm to smash a window and assist Lu in taking out the man. Lu then joyfully requests more flowers. Despite Lu jumping on top of Han to protect her, the station is collapsing into the base, inflicting irreversible damage to the building and many of the cadets. Sadly, the guy was able to activate the explosives before falling out. After the base is cleared, the news announces that over 3,000 people died that day. Because of the numerous fatalities and loss of resources resulting from the station collapse, protests and terrorist attacks worsen over the next several weeks, and citizens start calling for the government to reinstate the DLP. While he speaks with the U.S. ambassador to persuade him to give them a chance, Zhou has his aide read a prepared statement pleading with the UEG to have trust in the enterprise. A few weeks later, the team who will continue to work on the lunar engines is sent to the moon in cryo-sleeping pods. Computer engineer Hengyu goes to make sure everything is okay as soon as he wakes up. This contains a tape of his daughter Yaya, who converses with him in a restricted manner due to the restrictions of AI 550A. It turns out that Hengyu was once employed by the DLP. He was then hired for the Lunar project in order to obtain access to 550C, which will run the whole facility. He believes he can use this access to transform the brief Yaya's video into a complete artificial intelligence of his late daughter. Hengyu discovers that computer researcher Zhao is in charge of 550C and wants him to collaborate with him on the system's functioning while working with the rest of the team. Hengyu and Zhao test the 550C for the first time by activating every base sector. Zhao gives Hengyu the digital copy of his mind that the firm took when they outlawed DLP and says it's up to him whether he wants to destroy it or not while they wait for the computer to do its job. Later, when Zhao recalls the tragic day, Hengyu plays Yaya's video for him. Hengyu was traveling with his wife and children when he lost focus and failed to see a truck approaching, causing the automobile to crash. Yaya had a few minutes remaining, but his wife passed away instantaneously, so Hengyu rushed her to the DLP to confirm her decision. Because the technology wasn't ready, the organization didn't want to help, but Zhao, who had previously worked there, accepted to perform the favor. When Hengyu goes back to the present and asks Zhao to use 550C on Yaya, Zhao objects, telling Hengyu that 550A was more than enough. The system identifies an approaching level Z9 solar storm at a later time. The workers are anxious that their cars won't be able to keep up with the urgency of getting back to the base. 550C is fried in the process, but the drivers manage to reach the base just before the solar storm arrives by pushing the engines to the limit. Hengyu offers 550A to replace the AI in return for a spot on the team that will create the upcoming 550 models, as the project needs to be launched in 3 days. When Zhao says yes, Hengyu transfers Yaya's consciousness to a disk and gives the AI. After a few anxious moments, the crew tests the engines 3 days later, and they are thrilled to observe the moon experience a slight but noticeable angular displacement. This indicates that they may be entirely driven away in 20 years, and their accomplishment restores trust in the mission among people worldwide. They test the engines once more, this time on Earth, a few months later. People initially believe it has failed when all the displays go dark, but then they feel the Earth tremble and a light beam appears to be emanating from the astronaut base. Earth produced an angular displacement, as confirmed by UEG scientists, and people around rejoice because they will soon be able to move Earth totally. Years go by as the Moving Mountain project is rebranded as the Wandering Earth, and the UEG keeps working on constructing more potent engines that will provide the whole push. The stationary 550C is creating much of the structure and advancing at an exceptional rate. Each year brings a fresh test that confirms their findings, and as civilian acceptance of the project grows, the DLP eventually vanishes entirely. But there's also concern about how the current subterranean towns being created will not be accessible to everyone and that the procedures for obtaining a pass are very discriminatory. The worldwide internet is shut down and humanity switches to a 60-hour schedule as Earth's rotation slows down yearly. Soon, the world was beset by a variety of meteorological calamities, including floods and sun radiation, which increased the incidence of cancer. After getting married, Lu and Han finally give birth to a boy who will play the lead role in the first film. Their son will find it difficult to obtain a pass for the subterranean cities, which worries them a great deal. To make matters worse, Han contracts cancer from the sun's rays. Hengyu is always assisting with the creation of the new 550, which is called 550W, and never quits working on Yaya's. After the station collapsed 14 years ago, Lu, now a major, went to an interview to be one of the navigators sent to the new station. The interviewer, 550W, acknowledges that Lu has remarkable skills, but she also believes that Lu should stay on Earth to take care of his family because she is aware of his problems. Lu acknowledges his regret at leaving his family behind, but he knows that he must be selected for the base in order to use preferred policy to send his kid to the subterranean city. The scientists overseeing the research are listening in on all the interviews from the other side of the mirror, and when Hengyu hears Lu speak so movingly about his son, he can't help but think of his own daughter. Then, as 550W makes it clear that Han's life is about to end, Lu breaks down and doesn't pass the stress test. Because Lu's condition has gotten worse to the point where she is unable to stay at home, she visits the hospital to spend time with Han. Han acknowledges that, given the present weather issues, it could be challenging for her to visit her homeland one final time. Later on in the evening, Hengyu enters the base covertly and links Yaya's mind to 550W, motivated by Lu's passion. Hengyu sobs because Yaya is reacting to him in an uncontrollable way this time, and it's obvious she's somewhere else. At that point, Zhao and a few guards show in, and Zhao tries to talk Hengyu out of his current situation and accept Yaya's death. Hengyu declines and uploads Yaya in full into 550W, which instantly causes issues with the moon's system and causes the engines to start malfunctioning. Hengyu is tossed and taken away by the guards, and Zhao returns Yaya to a disk and turns off this 550W extension. In the meantime, Lu uses old connections to pull strings and rents a plane to transport his family to Han's village. They arrive in Shanghai, which is now a frozen wasteland, after enjoying themselves with a few pirouettes. Han asks Lu if she wants to pass away with dignity or with a lot of wires and pipes attached to her when the time comes as they gaze at the stars. When they talk about the system issue Hengyu created at the UEG, they discover how similar it is to the hacking they carried out on the drones and the elevator years prior. They keep getting blocked despite their attempts to bypass the system with 550W. Abruptly, the moon's engines surpass their power limitations and blow up, losing a significant portion of its surface. The moon is likewise being pushed toward Earth by this explosion. When it occurs, Joe is close to the coast and witnesses the tsunami growing in size before it hits land. He then sends an emergency notice to all global leaders. Lou receives a telegram summoning him back to service due to the emergency situation, and the leaders start allowing people into the subterranean cities as things will only get worse from here on out. Han passes away quietly in her sleep before Lou departs on his assignment, and Han's father takes their son to the underground city. Joe is in the midst of speaking before the UEG, pleading with them to back his emergency proposal, which involves using all of Earth's nuclear weapons on the moon to cause its implosion and prevent a collision. Because it is classified information, no nation has ever disclosed the exact number of nuclear weapons it possesses. Nonetheless, for the first time in history, this is irrelevant, and everyone agrees to contribute what they can. Meanwhile, Zhao pays Hengyu a visit in prison and informs him that they will be turning on Earth's engines earlier than anticipated, necessitating the reactivation of the worldwide internet to enable synchronized detonation control. Now that one of the servers is submerged, Zhao wants Hengyu to handle it. He shows him the disk that has Hengyu's and Yaya's thoughts in an attempt to persuade him. Due to the formation of an asteroid belt around the moon by lunar debris, Lu and other top pilots are selected to carry the nuclear weapons. 3 crews are dispatched to Earth to tend to the 3 missing internet servers in Beijing, Tokyo, and Dulles. Zhao shows everyone how to utilize the key that will unlock the password, which is made up of 30,000 randomly generated digits. 550W will then take care of the rest. In the meanwhile, the selected pilots' shuttles depart for the moon. A handful of the shuttles are struck by the asteroids, which are sudden and fast-moving objects that cause them to crash. As a result, the squad loses 200 warheads, leaving just 180 for the explosion. 550W securely navigates the shuttles across the moon's surface, at least until another asteroid strikes another shuttle, crashing others, including Lu's, and causing them to land fairly forcefully. Ultimately, 384 warheads are lost. The survivors decide to deliver the remaining warheads on foot after quickly looking for tape to patch their helmets in order to maintain oxygen. Lu exits the shuttle and shuts the door, willing to give his life in order to save the lives of the young people, and then he sends the shuttle back with the survivors. When the 3 teams reach the server locations on Earth and go under the surface, they discover a variety of aquatic life has already established itself there. Hengyu's team in Beijing uses drones and specialized tools to infiltrate the building and locate the server door. However, when they attempt to force the door open, the gadget malfunctions due to pressure, severely injuring one of the guys. Zhao attempts to treat the wounds, but the guy passes away since he lacks the appropriate instruments. Hengyu and Zhao choose to complete the task and make all the required connections to restore the internet while the majority of the crew removes the body. Abruptly, moon debris starts raining down on Earth, impeding a backup team's path to the Beijing server as Lu uses a vehicle to transport the remaining weapons. When the debris strikes the structure, it begins to tremble, and Zhao becomes trapped when some hardware falls on his leg. Before the water overwhelms Hengyu and causes his death, Zhao chooses to give him the password key as the room starts to fill with water and he is unable to unlock the door with the assistance of his drone. All of Earth's main destinations are destroyed by moon debris, and those who had been quietly migrating to subterranean cities suddenly start to push out of fear. Joe receives terrible news at the UEG. Because the warheads are all different types, they cannot coordinate them in time to explode simultaneously. As Joe is ready to give up, one of his men suggests an alternative. They might send additional astronauts and manually explode them, so agreeing to make a sacrifice. A few young people volunteer for the operation, which requires 300 personnel, but an older pilot interrupts and reminds them that it is their responsibility to complete the task and allow the younger generation to take care of the future. When this is agreed upon, every astronaut over 50 boards the shuttles and heads straight for the moon. When they arrive, Lou is startled, but he can't say goodbye to his former instructor and training colleagues since his communicator is damaged. Instead, he is placed on a shuttle to return to Earth. Beijing is still out, but the UEG certifies that the servers in Beijing and Dulles are back online. Hengyu is experiencing difficulties as well since his room is becoming flooded with water and he is unable to link the key to the correct computer. In a desperate attempt to find a solution, he links the mental disk to the computer just before the moon crew explodes all of the nuclear weapons. The collision is averted when the moon successfully implodes, but Earth must go quickly since additional debris is on its way. Hengyu turns on Yaya's video and attempts to get her to turn on the internet by giving her the key, but just then, the water eventually envelopes him and he also perishes. Major cities experience rioting and terror as lunar debris keeps falling from space and the UEG issues an emergency transmission indicating the mission has failed. Zhao instructs his crew to begin the countdown to activate the engines because he believes there is still hope. Though everyone believes he's insane, Hengyu's mind also unexpectedly activates within the computer in Beijing. Following his reunion with his daughter, the Hengyu AI sets to work, attempting to activate the server while a man obeys Zhao's commands and pushes the button. As the Earth is forced out of the path of the lunar debris, everyone at the base watches in amazement as people rejoice and the tides eventually stop. From his position within the shuttle, Lu observes the Earth shift and seizes the opportunity to capture a lovely film to present to his kid. Meanwhile, Hengyu and Yaya's mental backups merge with 550W. After 7 years, Earth returns to its 24-hour schedule as it floats away. Joe is no longer with us, but his UEG assistant continues his legacy. With the lunar issue resolved, they can now go on to the next phase of the plan, which calls for flying close to Jupiter in 10 years to obtain the second boost needed to propel Earth beyond the limits of the solar system. Lu is in command of a space station that has been set up to monitor the engines. Although 550W is in charge of the system, the AI determines that it is difficult to pronounce and reverses the word to become Moss. Hengyu learns via the AI that the Moss was behind the majority of terrorist strikes, including the drone takeover and the destruction of the lunar engines. It is confirmed that Moss from the first movie, which created all the turmoil, has come to the opinion that the greatest way to save human civilization is to annihilate humans after viewing Yaya repeatedly.